You're listening to A Seat at the Tech Table, a podcast by Sisters in Tech, hosted by Anna and Esther Kofariji. This podcast highlights the experiences of Black women working and thriving in the tech industry. You'll learn about how they found their paths into tech, and hopefully you'll be inspired to consider whether there's a seat for you at the tech table.
Today's guest is Sandra Okoli, a London-based web engineer.
Hi, Sandra.
Hi, thanks for having me today, girls.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank
Super
you.
excited for this conversation.
Okay, we'll get straight into it. So welcome to A Seat at the Tech Table. Tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Okay, I am Sandra Okoli. I'm a web engineer. I've been in the industry for about 4 years now, roughly, and I originally started as a digital marketing graduate. Currently working at ASOS. I've been there for 3 years now, and I'm now a midway engineer.
Okay, thanks for the introduction. So before we get into like your tech journey and you kind of running us through exactly how you got to where you are today, we just want to get to know a little bit about you. So kind of give us a bit of a background summary of who you are.
Okay, so I am one of 5 siblings in my house. I am first generation. My parents are Nigerian, Igbo, and that's pretty much shaped my upbringing. Education, as we all know, is the forefront of parenting in the Nigerian household. So that's the route I took. I done a 3-year undergraduate degree in advertising and marketing. And I'll talk a little bit about how I came into tech later on. But yeah, that's basically me. Aside from working and being immersed in the tech world, I just like to do regular things, meet up with friends, go out for drinks, dinner. I mean, COVID, we've been locked up for a long time. Yeah. So definitely playing catch up with socializing and doing other things that maybe I took for granted before COVID.
Yeah, we all are. I think we've learned a big lesson. Absolutely. Okay, so like, what were your interests growing up?
Growing up, I was actually a tomboy, to be honest. I loved playing out. I loved like playing video games. I was like Sims. Me and the Sims, we were to the point where I thought I was going to do architecture because I just loved building houses on the Sims. That's all I used to do. Like all my siblings, I'd build them houses and then they'll get on with their family life. And yeah, so growing up, I grew up in quite a big household, so we had lots of fun. We did trips here and there. We'd go to Nigeria for Christmas. We'd go to New York for the summer. So yeah, just regular stuff. Adulthood, it's not the same, but yeah, it was fun growing up, to be honest. I had a fun childhood.
Okay, I think with some of those, some of your background, we can definitely relate to. We've also grown up in London, so yeah, not exactly the same experience, but we are similar.
Cool. So I'd love to dig into kind of your university experience. So you studied advertising and marketing communications, and obviously that's not what you're necessarily working in right now, but like, what was it like studying that for that degree, and what did you learn that you found really interesting?
What did I learn? Not to miss deadlines. I learned that the hard way, actually. Yeah, I'd like to say I've changed, kind of improved, but still got some work to do in that area. But university was fun. It was my first experience of living outside of home. So, freedom, yay, the usual. So the first year was quite a big shock for me, actually. It was like vastly different from college, and, there wasn't really a guide to how you transition from college to university. Like education structure is completely different. So I did struggle at the start with the amount of workload that we had. And obviously that first year was nothing in comparison to the third year. So it was actually quite a fun experience living outside of home, and also just trying to navigate studying life. The course itself It was a bit hit and miss, to be honest. I'm quite I wouldn't say I'm an academic, if I'm honest. I'm more like drawn towards creative kind of stuff, which is why I picked advertising marketing, because, you know, you just get to create a whole load of stuff, which was cool. I enjoyed probably my last year the most because that's the most practical work we've done. So we actually got to present in front of the agency and show them our ideas and stuff like that. So, yeah, that was my experience.
That's super cool. I always feel like advertising degrees, especially the practical bit, teach you a lot about like the world, because I just feel like advertising is all around us and we're constantly being marketed at. So it's like it must be cool to understand exactly what's going on and all of that kind of stuff.
Definitely. I mean, when I was in uni, like social media was around, but it wasn't as prevalent as it is today. So I literally just got a taste of what it was going to be like on the outside. Like I probably now, I'm sure the curriculum has changed drastically. But I kind of learned about tech outside of university, if I'm honest. Very much traditional forms of advertising, TV, billboards, that sort of things. You know, like learning about brand touch points and, you know, other stuff. But yeah, we don't use that anymore.
So you said you learned about tech outside of uni. Was it, so when you were at uni, did you have kind of an opportunity outside of uni to encounter tech, or did that come later?
That came a little bit later. So originally I had enrolled on what they called a sandwich degree back then. I don't know if they still call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're supposed to do a placement a year, but me being last minute, I thought, yeah, okay, I could look for a placement, not knowing how competitive it was. So I left it a bit too late. So my window for getting a placement kind of closed quite suddenly. So I switched to the 3-year course, but I made sure that I found an internship outside. I think I'd done my first internship maybe second year of university. Yeah, that was, I would say that was my introduction into tech.
Cool. So what was your internship?
So it was a small boutique fashion house, or whatever they call it nowadays. So they were a startup brand. They were designing clothes. They were, you know, they were pretty much getting their feet off the ground. So we would do like running, like being like a runner, basically just taking clothes to studios. That back then was using A to Z maths, by the way. You know, running around London, delivering clothes to the studio for a shoot because, you know, a designer or model wanted to wear the dress. So, yeah, it was fun. It was very varied. It was like my introduction to marketing, to be honest. And I didn't like it, I'm not going to lie. It wasn't what I expected. It's kind of like Devil Wears Prada, but
okay.
Watch that film. I was working long hours. This was back when I was doing like unpaid internships, so they didn't pay for lunch or travel. So they do really work you. But the one thing that I did enjoy doing was managing the content on the website. So that's kind of what piqued my interest. But back then I was very naive. I thought it was just like using a website builder and dragging an image here and writing some text here. I really enjoyed that side of things. And that's kind of what got me into tech, if I'm honest.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I think those kind of entry points are so important because you do go from drag and drop, and then you have to. It's a starting point, and then you learn kind of deeper and deeper, and you learn how to do more. So that's super cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was coming out of university like? Did you have a sense? Okay, I want to go into tech now, or did you still try to pursue marketing?
So I always had the dream of working at an advertising agency, and it didn't leave me. I was like, oh my God, I need to get there. Like, that's the end goal. And it was based off my final year going into an advertising agency, which I have forgotten the name of, but it was quite a big one. It was quite a big one. You have to trust me on that one. It was really nice. It was like the proper glitz and glam agency that you see on TV. We've watched 10 Things I Hate. No, not 10 Things. Wrong movie. What's that? How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. I knew it had to. So that I'm a film person. Like, I grew up watching movies as well. So that was one of the things. It was like, I think the guy was working at an advertising agency and the girl was working at a magazine as a writer, which was two streams that I wanted to go down. And basically my career was shaped on that film. So I went into an agency. It was just like I'd seen on TV. So I was just like, yeah, okay, I want to do this. I want to pursue this. So I tried. Trust me, I tried. I tried for a whole year. It didn't work out. So I kind of went, that's when I gravitated towards digital marketing. So I worked for a number of startups. I'd done like friends and little side projects. I was still using the website builder back then when life was so much easier. But so I spent a year looking for a job outside of university. I wasn't prepared for it at all. I thought I was going to get a job straight away. Luckily, my parents own their own business, so I was able to work with them partially. But I don't know if you ever work with, you work with your sister, but I don't know how that dynamic has always been. But sometimes it's not easy. So
It can be hard.
So, although I was grateful, that I had that to fall back on, I really wanted something for myself. I just wanted to go out there and get some experience.
Okay, I just want to pick out something. So you said that you gravitated towards digital marketing. Was there anything in the first job that made you or helped you to realize that digital marketing was the right direction for you?
100%. That was the only thing I was excited to do. Like when I came in every day, like everything else just didn't. It was like competitor analysis, research. I was like, oh God, is this really going to be my life? So the website I was like, oh, what can I do with this today? Like, can I move this here? Can I put this here? It was exciting. So after that role, I kind of tailored my CV towards digital marketing. So a lot of it was like, content management and all of this stuff. And you know what you do with CVs, you just like, you embellish a little bit. So although I did have some experience from doing like friends and family and stuff. And then that's what led me to my next internship, which was actually a digital marketing internship at a startup agency. So it wasn't quite there yet. It wasn't the glitz and glam agency, but it was my foot in. And that my sole role was to do content management on their website, which was pretty cool. It was like a crowdfunding website for food.
Okay.
So that was a fun experience. And then from there, I knew where I was going. I was just like, okay, anything to do with web design, which has changed over the years, its definition. But that was it for me.
Okay. So you had kind of a few of these roles in kind of the digital marketing space, the content management space, and then you decided to go to General Assembly. So tell us a bit about that journey and decision.
Okay, so General Assembly actually happened while I got my first job after university. I'd say my first official job because I'd worked other places, but they weren't really what I wanted to do. So that was an interesting experience. And I would probably say that job cemented exactly what I wanted to do. Just because of the pure nature of the role, it was so... I mean, in hindsight, I'm very grateful for that role because I was able to find out exactly what I didn't want to do. So I was the youngest to join that team. I actually worked at a company. It's a charity called Ear, Nose and Throat UK, ENT UK. Okay. It was at the Royal College of Surgeons. So that was a whole different world. I was working with surgeons, consultants, nurses. It was different. I never kind of envisioned working in that sort of setting. But I learned a lot. I was the youngest on the team, so by default, I was the one. It was kind of like working with my parents, like, no shame to them. Like, anything digital or technological, like, can you do it? Like, I don't know how to do this. So I had to learn on the fly as well. I was like, oh my God, that was when like imposter syndrome was at its highest for me because I was like, these people really think I'm an IT technician. Like, did I embellish a bit too much on my CV about doing like backups for the server? I actually had to kind of oversee like a lot of the IT infrastructure changes in the building, because they were way behind. Like when I came, they were like back in the Stone Age. So I kind of had to revolutionize them in terms of that, in that sense. I was working on events, marketing, tech projects. It was just a whole like big varied role, basically. That's the way I can put it. But okay, so what led me to General Assembly was the actual question. Part of my role was managing the Ears and Throat UK website, and we had developers that would deal with the bug fixes. So I would deal with the day-to-day content, and the developers would deal with any bugs that arose. And they arose often. So I was like on the phone to them almost every other day. Emails of, this is broken, can you do it? And then the bill came. There was one time I actually had to have a meeting with my manager because the amount that we had spent in like say 3 months on the developers was absurd. And at that point, I had no awareness of budget or anything like that. I was pretty naive in that sense. So I was like, these people are really making money. And I was sitting here just like, I've always been interested in it. So I would like, back then I was doing like online courses, HTML, CSS. And anytime they'd fix something, I'd ask them, oh, well, how did you do this? Like, what, can you like talk me through it? Stuff like that. So then, finally, General Assembly came. I went on holiday. I had an epiphany. I was like, okay, what am I going to do? What's my next steps? So when I got back from holiday, I went to my manager's office. I'd done some research. I printed off the General Assembly portfolio curriculum. I said, okay, I want to do this course. I sold it to her like, okay, we don't have to spend so much money on developers. You can train me up and I'll be able to help with some of the issues. Nice. So she agreed. She said, okay, we can pay half of the course. And that was a 10-week part-time course. So I was working and doing that course, which was very difficult. I was like, oh, God, this is worse than uni. But in 10 weeks, I learned so much, like in like the space of working at my company for about, I'd say, a year. I learned more in that 10 weeks. And I was like, okay, I need to do this now.
Wow.
Yeah. And then a couple of months later, I quit and done the full-time course. So,
okay.
Yeah, so I literally done 2 courses at GA. First one was definitely, I needed that to make sure that that's exactly what I wanted to do. Manager wasn't too happy about it, but yeah, it was what I wanted to do. I couldn't see myself. I like to think ahead, and I couldn't see what was ahead with that role. I didn't know what I would do next. I didn't really want to do content management anymore. It wasn't as exciting as it was at the start, and I knew there was more to web development after doing the first course and working with developers.
So you may have mentioned this before, but what's the name of the like part-time course and then the full-time course that you did?
The part-time course was called Frontend Web Development, I believe. Yes, they quote me on that. I think that's what it's called. And the full-time has changed, but it was WDI, that was Web Development Immersive. Okay. And that was for 3 months.
Okay.
Full-time, okay, wow.
Full-time, yeah.
Interesting. So tell us a bit about the course, because I think we've had actually someone on who's been on a boot camp, but I think this is slightly different to a boot camp. So tell us a bit about kind of what it was like. Would you recommend it to people?
100%. The first course, I wouldn't say is a prerequisite. Like you could just go and do the second course if you wanted, if you really knew that's what you wanted to do. But obviously, it's a lot more expensive. The first course, I believe, was like maybe £3,500.
Yeah.
I believe. But if you do one course at GA, you get, I believe, I got like 10% off for the next course.
Okay.
Yeah. It's intense. Let me tell you that. Anybody that wants to do a boot camp, I'm the advocate for boot camps, but just know nothing else in your life you will have time for. If nothing else, you won't even think about anything else. You would just, if you ask my family members, I was like, everybody went through that boot camp with me. It was, it was stressful. It had me thinking about my life choices, whether this was something I could do. I was so naive to the world of web before I joined that course. I would just say that. I thought, I was like, yeah, I've done the course before, and I've been working with developers, I've got this. Absolutely not. So content of the course, it's very, very rapid. You will go through a technology or a language a day, I'm telling you.
Wow.
Literally, it's back to back to back to back. But what I love about it is it's so far removed from the traditional university world that they can adapt to changes. Technology, you'll get left behind if you don't keep up.
Yeah.
And General Assembly really are quick to adapt their courses. So when I was on it, we were learning Ruby on Rails initially, then we learned jQuery and then JavaScript. And then we used 2 frameworks, Angular and Node.js for the back end. And then we were introduced to React. So it was a lot. I don't know how else to describe it. I'm probably not doing it justice, but it was the best decision I ever made. It was, it's the reason why I am where I am today.
Wow. No, that's really, really, really nice to hear. I think coming from an academic background, I was at the point where I wasn't sure whether to go down the General Assembly route or take a master's. And I think there's just benefits to kind of both. And I think there's definitely, it's definitely important for the kind of style of learning that, it's important to recognize the kind of style of learning that is suited to you, because as you mentioned, it's quite rapid and they're adaptable and flexible to kind of introducing kind of the changes in technology. So no, it's really, really interesting to hear you say that.
Yeah. I had a similar thing, actually. I was researching masters and I was researching boot camps, but my soul spirit wouldn't even allow me to go back down the education. I just had such a traumatic time in university. I was like, I don't want to put myself through this again. I've got a job. I could stay in this job and I'll be fine. I couldn't do it. And then I went to GA. They'd done introductory sessions, and I was listening to the people talk on the panel, talk about how they just graduated and they're working at some big company. I was like, I want that to be me. So luckily, my parents, well, more so my mum, was like, when you get your first job, you have to save. I was like, yeah, I will save. At the start, I didn't save, and then I saved, but not knowing I was saving towards this boot camp, because that did change. It was I'd saved, for probably about two years, maybe. The duration I was at my last job, I saved for that. And but still, I couldn't part with the whole amount. So I did take out a loan. If anybody wants to do that, they can go that way. I wasn't convinced about, when you go to these places, you get a job 1 week coming out. It's that's what they said at university. I fell for it never it again. So, I took out a loan just to cushion myself. I wasn't sure whether I was going to get a job immediately, so I wanted to still have fallback with some of my savings.
Okay, nice.
Okay, so to the point you just made, a lot of these boot camps almost promise you kind of that you'll get a job very rapidly. So what was your experience post General Assembly?
Unexpected. At General Assembly, they put in the work. That money that you spent is in good hands, I'll tell you that. So towards the end of the course, they have a program called Outcomes. So it's basically prepping you to get an interview. So you do sessions with a person that was a tech recruiter previously that now works for the company. So they've done all of this before. They're seasoned. They've got it under their belt. They've got contacts. So you have sessions where you sort out your CV, you pimp out your LinkedIn profile, your socials, everything. And like they make sure you're interviewing, they have a tracker, how many interviews you should be doing a week, whether you're meeting that, and if there's any reasons why, they help with cover letter. They have connections to the industry, which is where I met my current employer. We had this, I think General Assembly originated in the States, so it has quite of an American feel to it. So you have like this sort of science fairy type thing at the end where it's like a show and tell. You have everybody has a table, you have your laptop, you have your business cards, your CV nicely out on the table, you've got all the work that you worked on, and then you get to invite prospects, so place companies that you want to work at. So they skill you up to be able to search for people on LinkedIn, send them invitations out.
Wow, that's so good.
Yeah, so we had so many different employers come, and it's like an open house. They go around, take your CV, and then you get that face-to-face interaction that you wouldn't get over an email. So you've already been able to build some sort of a rapport with them. They've seen your face, they can see your work. You've spoken about your work. And it was an amazing opportunity. That for me was the height of my bootcamp experience, seeing all the work that I'd done and being able to show people I was really proud of that moment.
Okay, so kudos to General Assembly.
Honestly,
because I'm so impressed by that element because, like I said, a lot of boot camps and places promise that, but I never necessarily hear about the work put in. But this sounds like they're really putting in the work, so I'm super impressed by that. And I just want to pick up something else that you described, which was just that kind of science fair show and tell at the end. And I feel like that's quite demonstrative of working as a software engineer, generally speaking, that you have stuff to show, your work is tangible in that sense. And I think I worked as an engineer for a little while, but I think that's one of the things I like the most is that if someone asks, what did you do at work? You can actually show them kind of thing, which is super cool.
Exactly. And that's part of the reason why I love my job as well. And that was very much baked into the course. You'd work on a project and then you present it back to the class. You'd have daily stand-ups like we do in the industry. So it was very much reflective of my day-to-day job now. So that transition, although that was still hard, that I did feel like I was a bit more prepared for that side of things.
So you're currently a web engineer at ASOS right now.
Yes.
Tell us about your current role and the things you do on a day-to-day basis. What does that look like?
Okay, my current role is very varied, actually. I didn't think it'd be so varied, but it is, and I love it. So I am a web engineer. I've been at ASOS for 3 years. I actually started at ASOS on the graduate scheme, which was a year-long scheme. That was amazing. That experience has been has shaped me, I'd say. So
what was so good about it?
What was so good? It was the structure. I think I realized the way I learn best. So although I say stuff about university, but I do like the concept of studying and then putting that study into practice. So we had at the beginning, we wasn't even introduced to our teams yet. We had separate sessions. It was a timetable day. We're going to learn about cybersecurity today. We're going to learn about performance today. We're going to learn about JavaScript, unit testing. It was everything you would have wanted, in a structured way. And, you had different people. So you got to meet members of the wider tech team. They'd come in, they'd teach you the sessions. And then later on, we got put into groups, much like university projects. And we had to apply our learnings and actually build out a stripped back version of the ASOS website, and then got introduced to the team. So for me, that structure was definitely what I needed.
No, that sounds so good. I think, definitely lesson learned for other organisations to do graduate schemes properly and well, Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I realised I didn't really answer about my day-to-day role. So currently, normal day would be stand up, you talk about what you're working on, if you have anything that's blocking you, and then you'd pick up a piece of work. But if you finish a piece of work and you move it through like a sort of flow, Kanban flow, so you start off with starting off with the development, then it'll go into review where your peers review it, then it'll go into testing where the QA engineers will test your work. If it's great, then it will continue going on. If it isn't, then it'll move back. But yeah, that's my kind of day-to-day work. So I would either be working on a bug fix, a new feature, security, performance. It's varied. It's very, I like that no day is the same.
Okay, that sounds super interesting. And would you say what you learned at General Assembly was completely transferable to what you do at ASOS, or did you have to like pick up new skills and learnings when you got to ASOS in order to be a web engineer?
Yeah, I definitely had to pick up new skills and learning, but GA gave me like the foundational skills. So I was aware of the concept of unit testing, React, newer technologies, stand-ups, sort of like the process of how you would, go by day-to-day as a web engineer, working as a team. Yeah, I learned loads of skills that I'd say I transferred, but I have learned a lot outside of that working at ASOS because, every company is different. I also actually didn't work at ASOS straight out of GA. I worked somewhere else, so I did take some learnings from there too.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds so good. So you say not 2 days are the same at ASOS, but what exactly do you like most about being a web engineer?
I like working as a team. I'm not going to like, it sounds a bit, wishy-washy, but I actually love my team. Like, we actually have so much fun. And I had this perception of web engineers that it was just going to be, this siloed kind of, lone soldier just typing away coding. But I love working with everyone. I love working with designers. I love working with security. I love working with infrastructure. I love working with my day-to-day team. And I love that I can work on features that, millions of people are using. It's just being able to be creative in a way that I didn't think I could. I never applied like creativity towards coding before. You're able to do that and also do that as part of the team. I love that.
Okay, so obviously you're at ASOS, which I think is pretty cool. And I just wonder, was that the aim? Were you kind of planning on getting to ASOS?
Yes, even before technology. So when I was doing marketing, I actually applied for an internship at ASOS, didn't get it. And then the universal, God, whatever you believe in, I believe in the Almighty, but, it was destined for me, to be honest. Since General Assembly, one of the representatives from ASOS came to talk about their graduate scheme. But unfortunately, when I graduated, the scheme wouldn't have started yet. It was a year later. So I had every intention of staying in the role I was before ASOS. It just turned out it didn't work. But I stayed there long enough to be able to join the grad scheme when it did open. So, I basically stalked ASOS, I'm not going to lie. I went to all of their web events. Like, I basically made sure they didn't forget me after coming to GA and telling us about it. So much so that during the outcome process, they advise you to contact people on LinkedIn. And I was like, oh, that's a bit cringe. Like, reaching out to people on LinkedIn, is that even going to work? So I reached out to someone that worked at ASOS, told them I was on the course. She was like, oh, right. I was like, yeah, can I come for a coffee and talk to you? She was like, oh, yeah, sure. You can come to a coffee at ASOS. I was like, huh? I was like, oh. I was like, okay. So I put on my best clothes. I went to ASOS. She took me into the building, took me through tech. The department showed me everything. Like, it was like, And then when I got back home, I got an email from a recruiter at ASOS saying, oh my God, I've just spoken to this person. They said you'd be a great fit. They've not stopped talking about you since. Like, oh my God. I was over the moon. I didn't get the job then because obviously the grad scheme hadn't started yet, but I'd made sure that I was still in contact with people there and making sure I went to their events. And yeah.
That's so good to hear.
I like what you say about kind of slightly stalking ASOS, but it just reminds me of like when I was kind of transitioning into tech and going to events and doing all that kind of stuff is so important and it's fun. But obviously with COVID, the world has changed a bit. But just speak on like going to events and that element of things. That would be interesting to hear your experience.
I will not stop talking about networking. I know it is hard for some people, like naturally some people might be introverted or, you know, it is like the best place to meet new people. If you're looking for a job, it's great to learn from other people's experiences and just meet people like you. Like, you know, tech is, it's male dominated, it's white dominated, it's hard to connect with people sometimes as well when you don't see people in, you know, people that look like you in higher positions or in a position that you want to get into. So I like just, it was like trying to discover a whole new family, like just meeting new people, you know, connecting with people on a personal level. And, you know, Twitter back then as well, you know, you see all these names on Twitter, all these handles, and then you meet them in real life. I was like a little celebrity, like, oh my God, Twitter, like. So, yeah, that was really fun. And that was really instrumental in my career. So I actually got a referral into ASOS through another person. I'm telling you, it was fate. Like every event I went to, I'd meet someone that worked at ASOS. We'd start talking and then, yeah, one of the girls was just like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to give you a referral. And I was like, what? And then I got a referral and then I interviewed and got the job. So networking, do not sleep on it. It can be, if it's not natural to you, it can be a bit daunting, but it's like the best way to connect with people. It's like probably the best part about the industry is how much people want to help you, how supportive people are, how people have been through the same struggles you're going through now and you thought you was alone. It's invaluable, I'd say.
I can definitely speak to that. I feel like when you find your tribe or when you network and put yourself out there in the tech industry, it's so beneficial to you as an individual because as you just mentioned, there's things like referrals, and it's just like that takes for you to put yourself out there to network and communicate with people in order to kind of know of opportunities or kind of get your seat at the table in order to kind of have that interview or to speak to the right person. So I definitely echo that.
100%. And you also get to go to like companies that you never thought you'd step foot in. Like I visited like some really cool companies, like for just an event, like Amazon, Google, Facebook, Twitter, like the stuff that you do day to day. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm in their building. I'm like, you know, you're with people that actually work there. You get a feel of the culture before you even try an interview or anything like that. It's actually amazing. I can't wait till things are fully, well, to be honest, never going to be back to normal, but new normal, where we can go and do that stuff again.
Yeah. That'd be cool. You did mention a short time ago interviewing for ASOS, and we've heard some horror stories about tech interviews. What was your experience?
It was the longest interview I've had in my life. And that was for the grad scheme. So first of all, the first interview, I hate being on camera, but here I am on camera. It was a video interview, but the person wasn't there. It was pre-recorded. So they'd ask you questions and then you answer back. And then, you'd have a little break between each question. I was like, oh my God, what the hell did I just say? I was like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. I should have said something else. So that was the first stage. Second stage was a group interview. So that was like a day long of group activities. Some tech related, some not, just like, general like group building activities, see how you behave in group settings. And then the last one was technical questions. So it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but I'm sure it's probably changed now. But it was daunting at the start, but after the day, I was just like, by the time I got to my tech interview, I was like in La La Land. I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to get this. I can't even remember my name right now. I've got a headache. So much. Like, I think I even said to my interviewer, like, this is, I'm not sure how this is going to go, but, you know, I'm here. But yeah, they were really nice, really made me feel at ease. Yeah, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was, but having said that, I had some bad interviews, which was actually quite hilarious when I think about it now. But yeah, it wasn't that bad. I know there are other companies that have quite extensive interviewing processes.
That sounds super cool. And I'm interested about that kind of group interview part, because I don't think I've heard about that in the tech space at all. So that's super interesting. Yeah,
I wonder whether that was just because it's a grad scheme, but we had group activities. I think they were quite unconventional. I'm trying to recall one. We had like a list of tasks to do, and we had to like prioritize them in order and what we would do first and why we would do it this way. Oh, also had to do a presentation as well. So I had to present, I think it's quite generic, like how I think ASOS could, you know, advance their tech, what they could do, any ideas I had, and kind of present that back to them. But the group setting, you could see the dynamics in the group, like who wanted to be the leader, who was a little bit more reserved, you know. So I tried to do middle. Like I didn't want to come across too assertive, but I didn't want to come across too like, you know, like what's the word? Just a bit more quieter. Like I'll let them do it, and then I'll add my 2 cents after. So clearly it worked. So
you got the job.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've spoken a lot about work, and you did tell us a bit about kind of what you do in your spare time, but like, so you work really hard, I'm sure, as a web engineer. How do you kind of balance that all out? What's your kind of relaxation activity or just kind of fun activity outside of work?
I like to travel. I know it's a bit cliche, but when I can, I will be on a flight somewhere. So I went to Milan and Budapest. I went to Nigeria this year as well, and planning to go away in January. Obviously, that's not something I can do every day. So what I usually do is just try and take some downtime away from the computer, go see a friend, go watch a film, go out to eat. I love to eat. So that's what I'm hungry. So I go out and eat, meet up with friends, just normal things. Like at first, before lockdown, you get a bit tired of socializing, your social battery, you need to, but now anywhere anybody wants to go. Yeah. And in the summer, day parties, barbecues, when the weather is sweet now, cold, so try and do more indoor things. But that's generally what I tend to do. When I first started out, I was like in my own bubble, like, I have to code 24/7, even on the weekends. I have to have a side project, because everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. I have to do this. I burnt out, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. Let me just live my life.
That's it. That is it. Okay, so you're well settled in ASOS. It sounds like you're having a really good experience there, but what are your future plans? What do you see yourself doing kind of long term, or maybe more so, what are your next steps?
So next steps for me, I'm currently taking a leadership and management course at ASOS.
Oh, nice.
So, yes. I love tech. I've always loved tech, I think. Now looking back on my history. But there's so much in tech. Like, I kind of wish I didn't go into coding straight away. I love it, don't get me wrong. It's very lucrative, you learn a lot, but there's so many other routes that I think my personality in a way I might be a bit more well suited to. Although I do want to make it to senior engineer and kind of I know I'm going to transition into another role. I know that for sure.
Wow.
So I would consider myself as a people person. I like to talk to people. I like to be involved in decisions. Because as an engineer, you do get the creativity in how you solve a problem, but you don't really get a say in what you're working on to an extent. Yeah. So most things are business driven. So there's a business reason as to why we are delivering this feature. Obviously it's to improve customer experience, yada, yada, yada. But I would like to be involved in those meetings, like being able to decide who we partner with and what we work on, why we're working on it, as well as I want to dabble. If there's a role where I can code and I can, be involved in more of that side of things, talking to designers, talking to, it kind of sounds like a project management role, if I'm honest, but I'm not the most organised person, so we'll see. I just know that I'm probably going to transition at some point. I just don't know what date or when.
Okay, that's so good to hear. So good to hear. I think that is the beauty of working in tech industry, to kind of work around so many different people in different roles and kind of be able to see yourself in one of those roles and transition quite easily sometimes, which is really, really nice.
Yeah, I think I love that about tech. It's so, like, most skills are transferable in tech as well. So I could do what I do somewhere else and in a project management role and probably do well at it because I have that technical knowledge.
Yes.
So it's exciting. There's a lot of prospects. I don't think there's like a linear path for me in tech anyway. It's where the money resides.
Yeah. Speak your truth. Where I'm happiest,
where I can, make the money that I want to make and live a fruitful life.
That's it. The good life.
The good life.
What we're all here for.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Your story is so interesting. I love your journey. Yes. I love kind of all of the learnings that you've had and that you've shared with our listeners today. Before we finish, where can our listeners find you online, find out about what you're doing? Share your leads.
I'm on Twitter. I've had a hiatus for personal reasons. To be honest, I'm liking my break off the socials, but you can find me on Twitter at introducing_SO, I believe.
Yes.
And LinkedIn, Sandra Okoli, and Instagram is my personal, so don't find me on there. Yeah, that's pretty much it, really. I was active on Twitter for a while, and Twitter's a great place. But yeah, just drop me a DM. LinkedIn, message me on LinkedIn. Just put "I'm not a recruiter" in the title, and I'll get back to you.
Oh, this has been great. Thank you so much, Sandra. I've enjoyed listening to your story and your journey, and looking forward to your future.
Thank you. So am I. Pleasure. Thank you for having me. And also shout out to Sister in Tech podcast.
Thank you.
Listening. Make sure you're plugged in, It's hard out here to be a Black woman in tech, but they are giving us a platform to share our journey with others and hopefully encourage others to do the same. So big shout out to the girls.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today and listening to this episode of A Seat at the Tech Table. You can connect with us on our social media platforms. Just search @SistersInTech on Twitter and Instagram, and check out our website www.sistersin.tech to see what we've got going on. Don't forget to leave us a review on iTunes, and we'll bring you the next episode soon.